It's been since the inauguration that I've been reaching out to speak with Donald Trump. I hope to speak with him sometime soon.
Well, let's just start with the elephant in the room. If he got inaugurated on the 20th of January, he's already spoken to world leaders, including people from India, Russia, China, and he hasn't spoken to you, Trudeau. He clearly doesn't think that you're his ally, or he clearly doesn't like you. I don't think that he has a problem with Canadians, but I absolutely believe that he has a problem with the far left in this country, who's done nothing but shoot their mouth off, badmouth them, run them into the ground, make fun of them, laugh at them, and try to whisper behind his back. In short, acting like a whole bunch of little spoiled children who now don't understand the reality and the rationale behind him not wanting to accept your phone call and not wanting to put his border czar or his trade minister in the room with you. You would not do it if it was reversed. So do not ask from him that what you will not give him. That's something you should take with you throughout your life. Now, before I get into this joke of a press conference, let me just say out loud that if you really want to help the country, you will resign, all of you, en masse, right now, today, in the entire Liberal side of the House and the NDP, and we can go ahead and have an election right away. And then we'll see if there's any difference between how Trump treats you and how he treats the next prime minister.
I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. Our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment, and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more.
There is so much wrong with that statement. I think one of the first things we should say out loud is, what do you mean, American plastics? We all know that the Liberal Party tried to ban plastic, so what are you on about? As for lumber and furniture and appliances, well, we don't manufacture any of those things inside of Canada, whereas the products going into Canada, they manufacture in the United States. See the difference there? Do you understand how what he's sending into the United States we don't make in Canada? Not really. And what we are sending into the United States, though some of it is food and oil, for the most part, the rest of it can be made by the Americans and is in fact being made by the Americans. All you're doing is saying that we're going to add a $40 billion tariff because he's 155, 25%. Let's just round up to 160 and call it 40, right? You're just going to bring in more Chinese goods, which should just really work out well. What I love about the idea of this is you're going to say that we're giving money to Ukraine so that we can stop Putin, and Putin's ally is China, and we're going to give China a whole host of money. You guys are not qualified. You need to come to the realization, come to the grips with it. You have to accept it. You're simply not qualified.
I also want to speak directly to Canadians in this moment. I'm sure many of you are anxious, but I want you to know we are all in this together.
Gillian Piper with Global News. Prime Minister, will you recall Parliament to pass a bill to help Canadian workers and end prorogation?
As you can see from our strong response package, as we spoke about with premiers this afternoon and have for many weeks, we have the tools to be able to support Canadians through this challenging time as it stands. This is a moment for Canadians to pull together, including Canadians of all different political parties.
Well, here we go again. The Liberals want everybody to pull together as long as they pull together behind them. They don't want to pull together behind my elected official, right? You don't want to pull together and have my representative be in the room, say like in the House of Commons. You don't say to me that the premier of the province is going to necessarily look after me in the way that my federal riding or my MPP is looking after me, do you, Mr. Trudeau? Because that certainly wouldn't be reflective of everyone pulling together, and it certainly wouldn't be reflective of a democratic system. You saying that, no, we want everybody to pull together, again, just like I heard in COVID, just like I've heard 1,000 times. Every time the Liberal Party asks Canada to pull together, it's bizarre that they only want them to pull together behind a philosophy or an idea that the Liberal Party has already pre-approved. Why don't you get behind us, Mr. Trudeau? Because your policies, your logic, your philosophy has brought the country to inflation, has brought the country to record unemployment, to record rents, and now you've just added 25% tariff to all kinds of products that are just about to come into the country. So that's going to increase the inflation. Now you're going to turn around and want to print a whole host of money, a bunch of money again, like a foolish Mark Carney's going to suggest to you. So that's going to drive up inflation, and it's going to weaken the dollar. Trump has just put bricks in their place, so now his dollar is going to gain even more strength against ours. And your solution to this is to say, no, I'm the dictator here. Everybody gets in line behind me. Or if you don't agree with me, then you're a phobe or you're an ist. And in no way, shape, or form am I going to allow your elected representative to come into the room with me. I will not call back the House of Commons. I find it very suspect. And I'm sure a lot of people would. If you were truly trying to get the country to get in behind you, then you would bring Parliament back. You would get the Governor General to come in there and do whatever that little ceremony that she has to do, and then we can get down to business of solving this problem. I mean, let's not forget that you haven't spent a dime on the border because you would have needed that to be approved in the fall economic statement.
There are many ways for you to do your part. It might mean checking the labels at the supermarket and picking Canadian-made products. It might mean opting for Canadian rye over Kentucky bourbon, or foregoing Florida orange juice altogether. It might mean changing your summer vacation plans to stay here in Canada and explore the many national and provincial parks, historical sites, and tourist destinations our great country has to offer.
Now, you see, there's the flaw, MP Trudeau. You are asking more from us to do something because you want to pick a fight with a guy, so that you can try to convince the world that you're some sort of a decent politician. So you can try to convince Canada that you can't compare against Pierre Poilievre, but somehow you can take on Trump. Trump is going to wipe the floor with you. We all know it. We're just trying to understand how badly you're willing to destroy the rest of us so that you can try to prove something that you're not going to be able to prove. You have asked too many sacrifices from us. It's up to you now. See, that's the thing you need to understand. It's not up to us. We can't solve this problem any more than we can stop Trump from putting on the tariffs. You are the leader. You keep saying it. And you are the one that has to solve the problem. You are the one that is responsible for this mess. And you are the one that is responsible for fixing it. Don't ask us to change our vacation plans. Don't ask anything from us. We have done enough. It's your doing. You're the one who's refusing to call back Parliament. So you said you have the tools. There's a lot of things that you need to take care of here, MP Trudeau. It's not Canada's responsibility. It's your responsibility. You're the one initiating the tariffs on Canadian population, on American products, but not on Chinese products. P.S. You're the one who's doing this without ever understanding that he simply asked for us to straighten up the border. You're the one, MP Trudeau, who has to solve this problem. Therefore, you're the one who has to do whatever you must to get it done. I suggest resigning outright right now. But, of course, you won't do that because if you had any self-respect, you would have done it by now.
I don't think there's a lot of Americans who wake up in the morning saying, oh, damn Canada. Oh, we should really go after Canada.
Well, we don't need the Americans to say that. We have the separatists in Quebec and all of the Hamas supporters that you have imported into the country and the 5,000 more Hamas supporters that you're about to try to bring into Canada. I don't need the Americans to say that. We have people inside our own country that say that, thanks to the policies of the Liberal Party.
We have one of the strongest, more secure borders in the world between Canada and the United States. As I said, less than 1% of fentanyl going into the United States come from Canada. Less than 1% of illegal migrants going into the United States come from Canada. And that's why we've invested $1.3 billion in strengthening our borders.
Okay, I'll speak to the simple one first. $1.3 billion is supposed to be an investment over 6 years, and the budget hasn't been approved yet, so really you haven't spent a dime. And trying to say that you've spent that kind of money is dishonest. The idea that you would think the Americans are not paying attention is really just insulting to everyone involved in this discussion, which is why you have to fix the problem, Trudeau, why we can't get behind you and do it for you, because you're being dishonest. So how do we fix a problem that you're not being honest with yourself and with Canada or Canadians about? It's a 6-year investment of $1.3 billion, and they had to get it approved. So really there has been no investment. You might have bought a helicopter. You might have bought, you might have made no more turnaround at the fence post or the flag polling or whatever you're calling it. The Americans know, they're looking, they're watching, they're paying attention. Now you say it's the most secure and safe border in the whole world. Here's an example of the Mexico-U.S. border. Looks pretty severe, looks pretty serious. It's whatever it is, a 30-foot wall. And there's, police cars and there's guys watching it. Here's an example of the Egypt-Gaza border, which has got 3 layers of barbed wire and brick walls. And I would point out that this is Egypt keeping Gazans out of their country. So why are we bringing 5,000 more of them into Canada? Something we as Canadians should be asking Mr. Mark Miller and Justin Trudeau both. Here's an example of the Turkish-Syria border, which seems to be, more of the same, a 20-foot brick wall with a Jeep and a machine gun ready to go, barbed wire everywhere. Don't worry, though. Here's an example of the Canadian border. Now, I know you might be thinking in your mind, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a brick wall at all. And you would be right. It is, however, a 20-foot wide cut in the trees. It's known as the slash. You can see that it goes on way over there. This particular example has moss growing on what says the international boundary. Now, I am sure that nobody in the United States of America is considering this to be one of the most secure borders in the world. This particular part of our border travels roughly 2,200 kilometers. And it's just trees cut back 20 feet. So 10 foot on one side and 10 foot on the other side. And then it's trees. So I'm not sure that it compares to the other walls that we were looking at. However, there is a great example. I love this particular example, which is on the Quebec-Vermont border. And here you can see how we have this extra security of a double yellow line. You're not allowed to pass the double yellow line. Can you imagine trying to own a pizza place in this particular city? Man, oh man, who pays for what money? You could literally just stand on each side of this road here and throw stuff back and forth to one another. You wouldn't even have to cross the border. The line runs right through it. I'm not sure that this is also something they would consider to be secure. Now, I don't speak for Donald Trump, but I certainly understand what secure looks like. And I can absolutely see how an individual who is willing to, take advantage, smuggle human beings, smuggle firearms, smuggle fentanyl, they're absolutely going to be respectful of that yellow line. They take all that stuff through the border crossings, don't you know? They don't dress in black and slip through the trees on a 20-foot cut out of British Columbia. No, they don't do that. I mean, imagine how many people you got homeless living in tents. What would be the difference for them to live in a tent in the woods and once a week take it across, dress in black, slip across the 20-foot cut, the slash, into the one country, out to the other? I mean, go in with one thing, come out with the other. I mean, come on, MP Trudeau. If you want to solve the problem, if you want to act like you're going to do something about it, you have to start by being honest. There's absolutely no way in the world that you have secured our border, especially not when you consider that we compare the slash to the wall in Mexico, which is, the southern border to the United States. And I'm fairly certain that he's thinking, no, not so much. The idea that you want to mention flagpoling, where a guy is running through the system, I get that he's exploiting the system, but he's still doing it through the legal means of applications. You say, oh no, it's only 1%. I say, and I would imagine other people who are being honest and using common sense and logic would say, well, that's only 1% that's been caught. 1% has been caught. But when you look at the porousness of this border, and when you consider the ingenuity, the willingness of people to do this crime, whatever it may be, guns, humans, narcotics, just name it. I don't know. There's probably stuff that I'm not even thinking about. I'm sure that they have an endless supply of people willing to camp out in a tent and do their bidding for however much money that kind of stuff brings. And you have elected to tell Donald Trump that you've done enough. And from where I'm sitting, you haven't done anything. Now, I get that this town was here longer than the border has been drawn, but this is a 9,000 kilometer border and you haven't secured any of it, and you're sitting up there getting mad because he wants you to secure it. Not only him, everybody, the whole country, right? All of the people in the United States, all of the people in Canada want this line secured. None of us want to live with these kinds of criminals. Except for maybe you. One of the reporters from the National Post asked Trudeau a question about his relationship with Donald Trump, and I believe that he didn't like the question at all. I found it hilarious, and so will you.
Good evening, Prime Minister. Stephanie Taylor with the National Post. What does it tell you about your relationship with President Trump that you've been trying to get a hold of him and he hasn't been speaking with you?
I think this is a time where we've all remarked on just how active President Trump has been.
But if you can't get a hold of President Trump on a day as consequential as this, when it really matters, can Canada have a productive relationship with President Trump and the Trump administration moving forward?
As I've said, we have had a very effective and constructive series of conversations throughout the American administration. We'll continue to.
I wonder if they'll remove her credentials for that. That was a great question. How can you expect to be running the country or fixing this problem if the guy won't even take your phone call? I mean, that's a very valid question. To say, oh, we all know he's been busy. What a level of cope that is. Busy. Yeah, he's busy ignoring you. He's busy trying to make his economy get up and running while you turn around and make our economy flat as a pancake. While you and all of your advisors and your European influences decide that we can't have any productivity, we can't have any production, we can't have any things made in Canada by Canadians for Canadians. It all has to be brought in from somewhere else because we can't cut down a tree or get the permits required to put down a building because of all of the bureaucracy that you have, the red tape that your government has applied to the simplest of structure or development or innovation. I mean, it's really quite telling that you believe somehow you're going to be able to keep up with Donald Trump when he's only a month or three away from some serious income. All the while Canada will be giving him serious income, and you believe that this is going to be enough, that somehow your moves are going to be enough to shake his tree to the point where he's no longer willing to implement these tariffs. Get behind you. And you're the one that's out in front, so you need to solve these problems. And the fact that he won't return your phone calls, the fact that you can't even tweet at him and get him to respond, indicates that you are both ineffectual and you have a horrible relationship with this individual. So to do the right thing is for you to get out of the way. That means resign, trigger an election, never mind the rest of it. You guys can worry about who's the leader of the Liberal Party when the dust settles. For now, we need to get a parliament back in. We need to bring back the House of Commons, have the Governor General do whatever it is, have this no confidence vote and see how it gets there. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.